To the zone with RGB Mike. Anthony's here too, let's ride the hype. Bigfoot's on the run, Area 51's tight. Digging deep for truth, we ain't afraid to fight. Flat Earth theories got us spinning wild. JFK secrets hidden in the files. Illuminati whispers, fashion crooked smiles. I won't tune in, sit back and stay a while. Conspiracy chaos, we uncover the lies. Deep state shadows, yeah they can't disguise. We're cracking codes, watch the truth arise. Let the chaos reign, tearing through the skies. CIA plots under moonlight schemes. Hidden agendas ain't as crazy as they seem. Voices in the dark amplifying dreams. Conspiracy chaos, nothing's what it seems. Follow the breadcrumbs, follow the light. In the rabbit hole with us, pitch black night. RGB and Mike, guided by our might. Anthony with wisdom, out of sight. Conspiracy chaos, we uncover the lies. Deep state shadows, yeah they can't disguise. We're cracking codes, watch the truth arise. Let the chaos reign, tearing through the skies.
Let's go. We're back with another episode of Conspiracy Chaos. Joining me, my name is RGB, and joining me as always, got my co-host Florida Mike. What's happening, Mike?
What's up, brother? How we doing this evening?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Got to play some golf today, so I'm in a good mood. And also joining us after doing some testing today, Area 51 Ant is back with us. What's up, Ant?
Raj, you're always throwing me under the bus, buddy. You're always throwing me under the bus.
It's perfect, man. It's perfect. A real exciting episode, kind of related to some Area 51 shit. We got gonna talk some alien carvings tonight with Michael, the from Alien Carvings. He has the Instagram page, the website, aliencarvings.com. Michael, really appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us here at Conspiracy Chaos.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Really cool page. I came across your page not too long ago. Some very interesting, intriguing stuff on there. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the whole alien situation? You were telling us a little bit prior to recording, but
Yeah,
the floor is yours, man.
no, I'm a business owner from Washington State, and I came across these carvings. My wife cuts opals, and my good friend was down at the Tucson Gem Show, and I didn't get to go. I don't usually try to go down there because I come back with way too much stuff and spend way too much money and need a U-Haul and all this fun stuff. So we kind of just have him look for certain things. And I always like carvings. I bought carvings from Vietnam and Thailand in the past. And, he brought these carvings back along with a bunch of other specimen. And, it was these little plaques with aliens and language on there. And yeah, I thought it was really cool and really unique. I'd never seen anything like it from any of the mass production places in China or Thailand or any of those. They never had detail like this or anything that looked like this. So I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I asked him how much, and it was very fairly priced. And he tried to tell me they were 10,000 years old, which came as a blind side. I kind of chuckled, milk out my nose. It's didn't believe it at all. I told him this had to be on the 5 o'clock news if that's the truth. Like if they're really pulling aliens out of the ground, this changes everything. And
Right.
yeah, he's like, yeah, no, but it is. He's like, there's an archaeologist that sold it to me. And I'm like, well, there's your first thing. I mean, archaeologists don't sell artifacts. First of all, it's illegal. It's highly, highly against the law to take stuff out of Mexico. What you're talking about here just doesn't add up. Why he would be at a booth selling this, right in front of people. And he's like, well, no, they're not recognized by the government, but he's got carbon dates. He was just on the show with Scott Woltar, America Unearthed. And so I looked this thing up and I bet him $5,000 that I could prove it to be false. I immediately started doing as much homework as I could on the topic. I reached out to Linda Moulton Howe. I worked with her for a few months on it. She had actually taken some of these stones to Stanford Research Institute, and what they saw in there, they laughed at her, saying that it was created back in like the 1600s or something of that nature, or the 1300s, and it's impossible for it to be anything ancient. And so this whole thing went around. I collected more and more pieces, but I kind of started to disbelieve it myself, and I was very skeptical about this. I dealt with probably about 30 different families. I found that there was pieces coming out of Abuelo Stielisco. That was the first place we looked. I saw there was multiple scientists, PhD Oleg Elastrov and Nassim Harriman, the astrophysicist, and Greg Braden, and there were some people that were talking about this, and they weren't dismissing it. They were saying that this is genuine, and so on and so forth. And so that stuck as a seed in my mind that these people are putting their careers on the line over something that I believe might might actually be genuine too, because the way it looks and the amount of detail and some of the stuff that I started to get offered from the guys down there when I broke through and finally got into Mexico. And the people you may know just lights up like a Christmas tree with all these names that you can't even pronounce because I don't speak Spanish. So there was Juans and Jose's and everything all over my people you may know. And so I started adding these people and just asking them questions about it. Have you ever heard of these things? Like what's the deal with this? And oh man, I felt like Alice in Wonderland there. I was falling down the well hard. Like it was overwhelming to the point where they're showing me bodies and things that looked like Nazca mummies. And so it really inspired my research on the Nazca mummies and other topics that seemed to be maybe genuine. I mean, they had DNA and stuff on these elongated heads from Paracas, but yet no one
Yeah,
really talks about it. So it was really bizarre to see all these topics just get ignored. And
yeah.
as I started to look into it more, there was a piece of glass that came out of the ground, and I said, "Wow, if they're pulling glass out of the ground, we need to document that." And the guy's like, "Yeah, I've got footage of it." And I was like, "Can you please send it to me? Because I've got people telling me that this has to be fake, and I need to show that this is coming out of the ground." And he's like, "Well, I've got a documentary I'm working on. I can't send it to you." And oh, I got so upset, like like what
But
are we in this for, trying to get views and money and all this. And I got really upset at him. Actually, I called him out on my social media, and he got so burned he went out and rented GPR. And there was a documentary that was done by Steve Quayle, Gen 6 Productions, and that started there. It started about 2019, and it took them about 3 years to do the whole thing because they went and filmed down there in Lake Quetzal in Michoacan because that lake bed had dried out partially, and there was pieces sticking out of the ground in the lake bed. I mean, big 8 foot tall jade statues that we've documented in our documentary, The 10,000 Year Lie. And it's absolutely astonishing to see these things. And at first, I just thought, "There's no way, they're making these things." And the footage that they had on the Gen 6 documentary was so. It looked like it was very soft dirt. And obviously, it's a lake bed. Now that I know this, and I've researched this area heavily, but understanding how that all composed at the time, I'm not an archaeologist, so it just looked off to me,
mhm.
and so as they were filming this documentary, Steve got a phone call, and they started to talk with a gentleman named Max that lived in Tula Hidalgo. And Max said, he's a corn farmer, and they've had this property for over 300 years in their family. They're Toltec natives. And he said that they've been tilling these things up for years and giving them to the INAH. And when he was a kid, his dad told him just to bury them back up. He said, that's satanic stuff. You don't want nothing to do with it. It just brings harm. And so thinking about the Spanish and what they went there for, and how these people maybe hid objects that were pagan. What we see on some of these pieces are angel looking beings with elongated heads. And so I couldn't help but kind of think about that, maybe that there was something
Leads to
pagan
the
related.
Anunnaki as well, because that's what they say, the Anunnaki, the fallen angels. It relates all
All
back to
connected, the
all connected.
Watchers, the Book of
Yeah,
Enoch. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Why was the
And we
book of
didn't.
Enoch taken out of the Bible? There's a lot of shit. It all, like you said, it's
Yeah.
all connected. Now,
Wow,
were you
big time.
originally like growing up and all that? Like, were you always like an alien guy, like into aliens and like with your background kind of
No.
thing? How'd
No,
you get
not
into
at
it?
all. I mean, I wasn't at all. It wasn't until I saw these pieces, and I've experimented around with psychedelics and certain things like that. And believe it or not, the guy that went down to the Tucson Gem Show had just had this experience on DMT, and he's sitting there telling me at my table before he leaves about this crazy Anunnaki being that touched his forehead with a pine cone and all this crazy mystical, majestic stuff that I was like, "Wow, man, I've done LSD and stuff. I'm down to give it a shot," and this was 2018. And boy, I did. I had a really, really insane experience with this stuff. And I was in my music studio. I was recording an album, and that's what I was using it for, was just to see how it would influence the synthesizers and how I was playing them. And was in for a treat because what's crazy is after that experience, I thought I died. had a really crazy. I mean, it just I've never touched any psychedelic since. This is the last straw for me. I knew everything I needed to know about this substance at that time, and but it's like I hit this
Anthony had
wall.
this experience last weekend.
Yeah, I know. I see you keep raising his hand. It's great to hear this
Yeah,
because
buddy.
hallucinogens are supposedly mirages of the mind, right? But the significance of DMT and how many people have similarity experiences, mushrooms as well, how you can connect to each other and almost have telepathy where you're communicating and you know what each other said, but you never said a word. There's a lot of really things about that, and then you start looking at people like Aleister Crowley and his work back in the 1900s, how it inspired Scientology, how it inspired all these Walt Disney and NASA people that went out into the desert and did blood sacrifice rituals with this man who had been told by an alien, supposedly in Egypt, to how to do all this. And he created this whole religion that basically, now we have Eyes Wide Shut, which is the Hollywood thing. But I mean, this is all about the Scientology elite that we're seeing today play out, and it's really crazy because of the blood worship and sacrifice that you find down in Mexico, and it's connected to all these pieces, and it goes far deeper in a research paper that we're going to have peer reviewed, but these idols that we're finding could actually have blood inside of them, and they might actually be geopolymers rather than limestone, because when we have it tested, it's limestone in most of the cases. Like this piece here is limestone, but it's got this yellow reddish color to it. And what's interesting, a lot of people on the post comment, oh, that's concrete, well, they're not too far from the truth here. This is actually a casted item. It wasn't cast anytime recently. And the type of concrete that we're seeing here is a limestone that's high in iron oxide. And it was definitely, if you look at this piece, for instance, okay, you've got all these pores and holes on the surface. It's on both sides. Same with the pyramid. All four sides have these pores. You take a saw and cut the pyramid in half, it's pure white in the middle and it's solid all the way through. So where did these pores come from on all four sides, unless this thing was drawing at one point like you would have with a two-part epoxy? The other thing is these pieces, they radiate under a black light. A phosphorescence occurs. And if
Hmm.
you've ever played with two-part epoxies and certain glues with the black light, you'll notice that you'll get UV reactions from them. So we think that part of the process in which why they were sacrificing people to the gods was to get the blood, to create the bonding material, to create the stone idols that they would summon these beings with. And it shows it clear as day right on the piece that they were summoning angels and beings out of portals. And then you look at people like Aleister Crowley's work and witchcraft and the stuff that we burnt people at the stakes for as a government, and it makes you really try to think.
Yeah. So how close is your research to just mentioning pyramids, like to the Chichen Itza down there in Mexico? Are you near that at all, or any other pyramids?
Tool is not too far from that. It's definitely it's closer to Mexico City, so it's
Okay.
central Mexico. But it's a couple hour drive probably. The guys go there fairly often, both to Teotihuacan and Chichen Itza.
I didn't know if there was maybe any correlation to, like, saying the sacrifices and the material being the same, how the pyramids have the holes through them, as well as the object you have in your hand there.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a correlation to the pyramids and the sacrifice and all that too.
Oh, 10,000%.
See?
Because if you look at the blocks that those pyramids are created out of, it's called stucco. And the Mayans created this like a cement. So we already know that they were pouring and casting things right there based on the history that we have. And then you look at the walls down in Cusco and the Incan walls that are up, 10,000-ton stones all lined up on this hillside. They casted them. They didn't bring those up there. It's the same with the pyramids in Egypt. They're likely casted, and that's how they were able to get the king's chamber, the 600-ton granite structure raised up in the air. They poured it.
Yeah.
These stonemasons that are connected to the Freemasons, they are supposedly the ones that hold the secrets of the stone. All right, this is a public thing, right? So
Mhm.
that we know that when we had the Washington Monument constructed, that we used the stonemasons because they're the only ones that could create the recipe of concrete that would structurally stay up. So they know how to judge this structure. And what's crazy is all this limestone and everything that we find chairs, tables, cups. Some of it's brittle, some of it's extremely hard. Some of it you hit it with a something and it sounds like metal inside. Like they almost achieved iron quality with these. And if they were using blood as a method there, that would make a lot of sense how they were getting iron into a artificially created ceramic or geopolymer rather.
And who's to
Yeah.
say the Masons didn't use some type of that special chemical to make that concrete the special way, the same thing way these are built with the blood sacrifice? Because obviously Masons are tied
That's
into
why
the
it's the secret of the stone.
yeah. That's the
That's
secret
why
is
it's
the
a
fucking
secret
blood.
society because the sacrifice had to stop. That's what the whole conquista. That's, all this was to conquer the sacrifice, if you remember. And so yeah, they probably wanted to keep that power for themselves, or they're trying to literally stop these demons from being summoned onto the earth, and they know better. And this really was something that was just. I don't know. I'm not trying to say that the Catholic Church is bad or good. I don't know, but they used to worship Saturn as Romans, and then they
Mhm.
became Christians. And if we remember back in the day, the Christians were persecuted heavily, the real ones, and same with the Jews in the Holocaust. And if you look at the Judaism population today of how many people are Jewish but have the actual correct bloodline in their blood, I think I saw it the other day, and it was around 2%. And so these dilution periods of these holocausts and areas, I think, were to try to prevent this from happening. And if the demiurge is a real thing and these demigods are the archons that the demiurge created, then maybe we are being attempted to be trapped here, our souls, and
Yeah.
and that could be why all this is so corrupted.
Jacking our loose, going back to human vibration, man. They're just fucking jacking our loose, basically, man. Just taking,
That's right.
It's
sucking our
hard to
souls right
argue.
out of us. Yeah,
Yeah,
man,
especially
this
with
is
the
awesome.
government dumping all that money into like Skinwalker Ranch and
Hmm.
Project Blue Book and Blue Beam, not Blue Book, but Blue Beam, and
Yeah,
well, any of those paperclip, like the fact they were so invested in Hitler's research and what Hitler was actually pulling and how he was pulling these ideas. I mean, you look at the Bell and some of these floating devices; they look just like UFOs.
yeah,
And the way that he was learning a lot of this stuff was through the Thule and Brill Association, which is they were using occult Ouija boards and other things to pull this information. And I mean, ding, 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 right? There's your
yeah.
connection to the occult on multiple levels that I think we have to look at maybe more seriously.
Sure. Sure. I
Absolutely.
agree.
It all ties in. Everything always ties
I-
in. Man.
It really
That's
does.
all
Yeah,
kind of
it's
like
crazy.
really rambling. It just all goes together. It's like a never-ending story of possibilities and facts.
It
But it
is.
Seriously.
but it always goes back to like the elite, man. It always goes back to
All
like
right.
a cult. It always ends up with the occult somehow, no matter which
Yeah.
way we're talking about, what conversation we're having. It somehow leads back to the occult.
The
It's
World
just
War
document.
One was the Ottoman Empire, who were the Muslims at the time, and they had just conquered Constantinople, which is Babylon. So they had
mhm,
all the Babylonian relics and all the Ouija boards and stuff that they had prized. And so when World War One, the Ottoman Empire in Europe came in there, I don't know if all parts of Europe and everybody knew exactly what was there, but I'm guessing that likely they funneled a lot of stuff out of the country to sell it and get money right before the governments took it. So I'm guessing that's where Germany, probably got a lot of their stuff and their knowledge about maybe some of the things that they were trying to promote to their people.
mhm. And
I
also
Yeah.
don't know
like
if it's true, but
yeah,
Yeah.
going through like doing it through war and stuff too. Like I heard, like I don't know, if, obviously don't know if anything's true or not, but Hillary Clinton was like part of the trying to go to Iran or Iraq or whatever was to look for what Nimrod. Is that what it's called?
Gilgamesh, they found the
Gilgamesh.
tomb.
Thank you,
Yep.
Gilgamesh. Yes, the tomb of Gilgamesh. Yes, that was the whole like one of the big reasons they were trying to get over in the Middle East to start a
Yep.
war or whatever. And
Well, they
9/11
went
gave them
over
the
there for a
reason to go.
reason. Do you remember what the real reason they said was? It was for weapons of mass destruction, right?
Right. Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
Okay. Well, they didn't find any, did they? But
Nope.
they went over there and they got the job done, and we had mission successful all of a sudden on this boat. And I'm like, the fuck are they talking about? How did we win this war? And you're putting this on our aircraft carrier, George Bush? Like, what the heck? But now it clicks to me. Yeah, 3 weeks before we went in, the tomb of Gilgamesh and the resurrection chamber was found. There's emails in Hillary Clinton's John Podesta email hack or whatever that happened with WikiLeaks that specifically talk about this. And what's really crazy is obviously we find all these portals and different things. I find Vadra and weapons that Zeus and Ninurta hold on the ancient walls, and we're finding these things. And so It's possible the weapons were real. It's just that this is such a secret because there's such a risk to us as a species if people understand what we're dealing with in terms of magic and what's the potential is with some of this stuff. Obviously, they went and they persecuted witchcraft so hard with the Salem incidents and over in Europe. So it's plausible they just keep trying to push this down. And that it's a very real threat to us. And maybe even Nikola Tesla's work. Nikola Tesla said he was contacted with species. He created a device where he could communicate with them. And he built this
Hmm.
tower that now was going to provide free energy. But if you think back to Merlin and back into mythology times, what was free energy? It was magic and alchemy, right? They were pulling with crystals and spears and all kinds of stuff and doing weird
Yeah.
incantations and stuff, and even back into the Bible with King Solomon, how he takes control of the demons and uses this ring that was provided to him by an angel. Well, what if the angel was one of these angels that we're finding on these pieces and it wasn't actually one that was connected to God? And all of this is a huge manipulation. I mean, the biggest thing it says in the Bible that I take away from it is to use discernment and to know that the evil is at the highest levels, so that deception can be within the religion itself. That's the
100%.
highest level, right?
Agree more. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have conversations mostly with angry Christians that yell at me, because I talk about how their church is a scam and the Bible,
Right.
and I'll literally ask them questions about the Bible, like what it says, and they like get offended. I'm like, what's the matter? Does your pastor only read you certain verses every year and just recycles them? Like, there's a reason why they do that, right? Because if you know the truth, you become more powerful than they want you to be.
Knowledge is the
Yeah.
forbidden fruit. Remember, it says
Yeah.
it right in the book.
Yep.
Right.
Florida might.
Now,
Florida might.
we're
Go
talking
ahead.
about pyramids. Let me ask you a quick question. Do you think the pyramids are the open portal realms, or do you think they're
I have
just a pure energy
I have
machine?
depictions of it here. Let me grab this real quick. I'll show you.
Nice. I love it.
This is
On
awesome.
this,
This is
this is
absolutely
a
awesome.
lid of a box right here, and you can see it's got this amphibious creature on here.
Yeah.
He's holding a trident. If I don't know if it's going to come out clear, but he's got
Yeah,
a
you can
fin
see
down
it.
here, a double fin actually, and on the back of this thing, you've got pyramids shooting up into
Wow.
celestial bodies or something, and so we see a lot of interaction with pyramids, a lot of interpretations of energy, a lot of flying
Wow.
devices, not just UFOs, but flying devices like you would see in terms of orbs. I'll show you here one.
Now, where did
Yo,
you find that? That was found out in Mexico?
That's in Tula. Yep.
yo,
Okay.
this is literally the coolest podcast yet, Raj. I think
Yo,
so.
Ant, I'm so glad I found him a couple weeks ago,
Yeah,
man. This
I'm
is
not. I'm
awesome.
not joking. This is probably my favorite one. This is
No, I
something
Because I
new.
appreciate
love
you
like
guys
I
reaching
love
out,
this shit.
man.
I love this
Yeah,
shit.
me
So I'll
too.
I'll tell you a quick story. Like what kind of got me into the petroglyphs and stuff like that. I was out in Arizona visiting some family, and we
Nice.
were out on like a
Wow, look at
hike.
that.
And look at this shit. And they showed me some petroglyphs, and there was some like I don't know. Obviously, it was from like Native Americans or Indians or whatever. I don't even know what you want to call them. But like
Wow.
there was aliens, there was aircrafts drawn, there was all crazy types of stuff. But look at this. How is this made back then? Like how? Like we couldn't make
It's
this now.
cast. It's cast.
That's so crazy.
When you think
This
about
is
it
Now, what?
like that, and all these symbols were done when it was wet, and if they messed up, they could just fix it. It's not that
right.
big a deal, but the technology to make this material as a
Yeah.
concrete and to have it set slow enough to where you could form it into such crazy things, like that's the thing we just didn't understand how they were. I mean, that
That's
chessboard's 300 pounds,
Is that a chessboard?
Holy
That's a
shit. That
chessboard. Holy
chessboard
shit.
is sick.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
my god.
it's really
What would
ridiculous.
Michael? What
Our
would you say?
listeners, I'm telling you, listeners who are listening on the audio version, you guys have to tune into the YouTube on this one. This one is for the pictures and videos. This is stuff
Incredible.
from another planet. That's all
I
I can
mean,
say.
is this
It
stuff?
really is.
Is this stuff basically priceless to you if you had to put a dollar amount on? I know you talked about you can't sell in a lot of the artifacts. You said you bought a
Oh,
lot of this stuff. So what's the
actually, yeah.
what's
I
the
mean,
dollar amount? What's the dollar amount in there? I mean, you're looking at a big money.
yeah, the chessboard. My buddy, my business partner, he tries to lift it off me weekly, and we're at a 3.5 evaluation right now. So, like,
Wow.
that's how I would probably justify letting something like that go. But I mean, yeah, that's priceless, literally
Yeah.
priceless. However, when you're trying to research it, I got 250 pieces. I went 70 grand in debt, credit cards. to buy these pieces, thinking, holy cow, I mean, it just kept getting more and more crazy. We've got petroglyphs now at the 15-foot level. That guy with the GPR and the scanners, he found some crazy stuff. And that's what really launched this into a passion for me, where I started documenting it and writing books about it, because I knew, even if mainstream wasn't going to cover it, that having these books on record, 20 years from now, once AI tells the truth and people can't lie anymore, then obviously we're going to know the truth probably. So already, if you punch in all these pictures and all these translations and stuff, or rather not the translations, but the languages and the pictures of the pieces into AI, it gives you a chance, or a percentage of which it thinks it's correct. And we're seeing anything from 70 to 90% consistently, them looking at the dig site, everything. So it's interesting to hear it say that. I mean, how it comes up with these numbers, I don't know how accurate it is, but it's just interesting at the minimum to see
Mhm.
that it would assimilate the data. And you can ask it to reverse engineer that data of how it got there. And I mean, it'll tell you a breakdown of every symbol,
It's
and
amazing.
it's really amazing. Yeah.
Michael,
It's
you
crazy.
mentioned your books. Why didn't you? I brought them up. Why didn't you tell the listeners a little bit about your books and where
Yeah.
they could get them?
These are the three first ones I did, and essentially I wanted to do a specific book on Tula and a specific book on Abuelos that shows those pieces in detail, in full, what we see from those locations, what to expect, and how it came about. The one in the middle, the Anunnaki, is a book that really corresponds the entire Mesoamerica field in terms of Peru and some of these other areas like Guatemala and Honduras, that we've documented pieces from, as well as the Nazca mummies and some of the other bodies that we found in Mexico. And so those were the first three. I just wanted to get things documented. After that, I wrote a couple books. They're not shown in the photo there, but on Amazon you can just search Michael Forrest, or if you go to our website, Alien Carvings, at the very top there's a link that takes you right there. And so the other two books there that I came out with, they're actually written books. One is on Tiamat, and Tiamat, it's a really interesting story. It's in the Enuma Elish and some of these cuneiform tablets that you find in the British Museum from Iraq and Turkey. The Anunnaki stuff.
Hmm.
And Tiamat is essentially chaos, and she emerged from the waters and created this whole reptilian amphibious army. And so it sounds kind of like the demiurge. What's also interesting is there's a relief of Marduk, who was Enki's son, that kills Tiamat, and she has a one eye on this depiction with rays all around her face. It almost looks like a head of a sun with a one eye in the middle.
The
And
all seeing eye.
ding, ding, ding. Yeah, kinda, or something that was made after it. So the demiurge was created by the Sophia, supposedly in the Gnostic texts, and Sophia is one of the direct thoughts of God. And so God emanated these like 30 different thoughts out, wisdom and faith and love and word. And so like the word of God, the Logos, is supposedly the Messiah or Jesus. And so we have all these different emanations of direct thought, that essentially that's why Jesus, some people say he is the word or he is God, because he is a direct emanation of the light from the source. And so this thought of Sophia supposedly created this demiurge because she was separated from her pair. And the way that God mandated his thoughts to create was it required two thoughts, or two things to tango. And she had became separated from her partner and became lonely, and she gave up. She became fallen to Satan, is what they said. And Satan means confusion in this case. And she was confused and ended up creating something on her own. And she created it to be just like her partner. She wanted to create like a clone, or someone that she could be with and enjoy time with, because time was going by, and it just seemed, eternity is a long time when you're a thought of God, right? So
Mm.
um, she created something of this, and she was very ashamed of it. It came out very unbalanced and very evil, and she hid it away in this place. And that's our universe that we're in today, and that's why everything in our universe is unbalanced. Everything is in an attempt to be balanced, because these beings are trying to be like their creators, but they were never given the proper education to do this, and they weren't created with the full circle. And so everything that we have here is dualistic and can run somewhat good, somewhat evil, right in the middle, way on this side, way on that side. It doesn't matter, but that's what caused this imbalance with everything not being perfect. Back when I used to make the Christians cry, I used to sit there and be like, well, if your God's so good and so perfect, why is this world so shitty all the time? And how
Right.
can it be so painful? But now, after going through immense pain, I realized that wisdom is inherited from pain, and chaos. Without it, you can't have order. So all these bad things actually is what funneled into making the best parts of my life. And so when I see that this is God's plan and he works in mysterious ways, and that this creation actually created this, and that the God in the Old Testament that's angry and having you sacrifice your child and all this stuff is actually the demiurge. Now all of a sudden it's making sense to me that the God above that, or the real father, the father of the Sophia, is what came and intervened with this situation.
Wow. It's so wild, mind blowing.
And
I love it though. I love it.
What was it? Anaki's Sophia's son, right?
I went off on a tangent on that one, but yeah.
Well, that's good. It's good.
No, the Anunnaki are creations of the Tiamat. So Tiamat was chaos, and she created all these amphibious, and the
Okay.
Anunnaki believed that they came from a primordial dragon. And so
Ooh.
that's where the dragon is so everywhere, and these serpent temples are everywhere, because the knowledge of the snake and the serpent is what they're trying to suppress. The eagle and the serpent is a war that's been going on for thousands of years. That's why all of our flags either have eagles or serpents on them, because
Yeah.
we are literally controlled by those gods.
Medical
What's that, Mike?
industry got the serpents wrapped around the cross.
The caduceus is a very important symbol here, because not only do I have pieces with it on there, but it's showing something so important, and it's our DNA. It's the two brothers that are fighting with each other, Enki and Enlil, Satan and Michael. You have these forces that fought and fought and fought, and I believe it even goes as far as what they're trying to simulate in the Large Hadron Collider, because if you think about it, Thoth and Baphomet was a Templar
Huh?
being that came about in the 1300s. And if you translate that into Hebrew, it actually translates into wisdom, same thing that Sophia does. And so it's really interesting to see this relation. And Baphomet actually has breasts, and
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
she
Trans-
holds this staff that has the caduceus on it. Now, if you look at Thoth, he also holds the staff, and both
Man,
Thoth
pull up.
and her
I don't know who
came
Thoth
from
is.
no
Man.
parents.
What's that,
Who-
Raj?
who-
I'm sorry.
Pull up Thoth. I don't know who.
I will.
Yeah,
Pull
he's the
that up.
ibis looking bird that
yeah.
they have the emerald tablets of. Emerald
THOA.
tablets is
How do you spell it?
supposedly those THOTH.
THOTH. Got ya.
It's almost like a thought with an H.
Oh.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it might even be pronounced thought. He was the one that supposedly created all the languages for Egypt, and all the, it was a global project that he was directly working with the Metatron and the architect of the universe. And you look at movies like The Matrix, where they have the architect and they have all these things, where these people are trapped inside these little cocoons, and then if you take the right pill, you wake up. Well, the guys of the demiurge may be a metaphor for what we are actually experiencing.
Oh shit. Yeah. Okay. I've seen this before. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got like the beak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the story is he washed up on the shores, and he's found in the Sumerian, the Egyptian, and the Greek as Hermes Trismegistus. And that
Uh-huh.
means the trice fold. And so it's really an important thing to see the number three. And trice is Trinity, Father,
Yeah.
Son, Holy Spirit. In the Catholic, it's Holy Ghost. And you see a lot of these things with the Catholics, where they have changed certain things because they came from Saturn worship. And we find Saturn on, I mean, probably 40 to 50% of these pieces.
Oh shit.
So it's really
The
bizarre how
black
they knew
cube.
that Saturn had rings, doesn't make sense to me, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Isn't there something to like the black cube of Saturn as well?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. The Kaaba that the Muslims run around is a black cube, and it has absolutely everything to do with Saturn. And
That
there was
thing's
a
fucking
gentleman.
amazing.
Yeah,
That
I was
thing
going to
is
show you
that
the.
and the chessboard is like
Where's the Saturn at
incredible.
here? Well, here's a really great. This is a really great little analogy. So we've got the
Holy
all-seeing eye,
shit.
but right here you have this disk emanating these rays, and so this is like the source emanating the thoughts, and then the thoughts go into the pyramid where it extends again. So it's like a holographic interpretation of what we're seeing, and
And
we've
that's what
got
the
some
elite
pieces. Yeah, if you notice the Freemasons, they have the all-seeing eye involved. If you notice that the Shriners have hats that say ISIS on them. The word Genesis is the generations of ISIS, if you break it down, and
family.
that's really important because I think that that's being the first page of creation in the Bible, the Genesis. It tells us so much. I mean,
So some of this symbolism, I have a 7-year-old daughter and I watch Moana all the time. And that one
uh-huh.
picture, the one statue below in like the middle shelf there you just showed, looked very similar to something like I've seen on Moana. Yeah, that pyramid
That's one.
there. No, the
Oh
pyramid right
yeah,
behind it. Yeah. Like those symbols are like in the movie, and that's kind of maybe a way of Disney doing their thing of they're supposed to
bingo.
show the cult's supposed to show us what's going on. And that's their way to hide it. Like, look at that. Boom.
Fuck that.
Come
That's the
on,
eye.
Yeah,
man.
it's
That's
got gold leaf down in there. There's an eye. It's kind
crazy,
of
dude.
dark. So,
What the
but
fuck, dude?
but yeah,
This is
Disney.
mind blowing.
Disney's deep in this, I have a feeling. And I've heard
Oh,
that when I was younger that there was cult things involved with this. And if you take LSD and watch Alice in Wonderland or any of those original Fantasia type movies, the music and what they were doing on Haight and Ashbury with the psychedelic trials,
Yeah.
with Don Buchla and the original synthesizers that came out.
Look at
I
this
play
stuff. It's
synthesizers, so
amazing.
I knew a lot of this history prior to, and I mean, it's just wild, to
No,
think that
do,
that's real.
Roger went to Disney with his, on vacation for his family and stuff. And I told him to look out for special codes and stuff at Disney World. And sure enough, the adrenochrome code was sitting there right
oh yeah,
there.
everywhere,
I
everywhere.
wouldn't doubt it.
All of them.
They're
Like, look at some of this stuff. Do you think a lot of this, obviously, or not obviously, but do you think some of this stuff is like just ancient Sumerian, um,
it's
like, or do you,
Proto-Sumerian, so it's
Proto Sumerian?
before. Yeah, it's
Okay.
before. Oops.
Holy shit.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was gonna
This
say, what's that
hammer.
way? That's like Thor's hammer, dude. Like, look at that
Right.
with the detail in this. Like, you
So
guys,
heavy.
you have to watch this episode. People who are listening, I'm sorry. Get on our YouTube,
The-
like,
And these jars,
subscribe.
these are called panoptic jars or canoptic. I'm sorry. And
Wow.
when I got them, I mean they stink like horribly, horribly, horribly stink.
Like what?
And
What was the
uh,
smell like?
like the worst death you could ever imagine.
Really?
Holy shit.
Yeah, and
This
and
is
they
crazy,
were
dude.
used in Egypt to put organs in, and there's actually organic material in the bottom of one of them that we're going to be able to sample for dating. It's
Oh.
absolutely disgusting.
Shit.
Imagine if
Ooh.
like somebody you hear about, like that they actually do talk about in the books.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
it's
nuts.
hard. I mean, at the same time, um, if this doesn't get done, like someone's just gonna like sit on it. It's not gonna ever get there,
Right.
So
I
Now,
love what you're
yeah,
doing.
do you do the archaeological digs yourself? Like, are you in
no,
hands on or not? No. Okay.
I've never been to Mexico in my life.
Okay.
I've done all of this from my couch in
Oh
my
yeah.
living room. Um, I love telling people that because it's like, beg your pardon, I mean, it's
Yeah.
really it's crazy to have gone this far with it without going down there. And I
Okay.
wanted to. They invited me to go down to do the digs with the Gen 6 expedition back in there, and I've been invited down numerous times since. However, I've spent so much money down there,
Yeah.
that with the cartels and just the risk of the nature of the topic that we're discussing, the second my passport gets scanned down there, I'm going to be looking over my shoulder, and it's going to be
Right.
scary. I might be just fine. I don't know. I just don't know where they're at on this. And I know for a fact that the government knows about this. And I
Mm-hmm.
know for a fact that they're suppressing it. So the
Wow.
two people that were digging that sarcophagus out actually worked with the INAH or are actively employed with the INAH. They were doing this on their off hours. The people that work for them and the Toltec natives are absolutely disgusted because they've been pulling these pieces out and giving them to their government. And they've been being told that there's no place in the museum for them. And And then the guy Max that I was telling you about, he was so upset because he went to the INAH with his family to show the kids some of the things that they had turned in, because they found a pretty insane piece that required excavation, and there was bodies, and they wanted to show their kids what was here before them. And INH said, "We've never received any pieces from you," right in front of the kids. Made grandpa and dad look like absolute morons. And that's when he said, "Yeah, let's get this documentary up here. You can use my private property to do the archaeological discoveries." And that's what started. And those first two caves were unleashed upon. And and then now there's a whole nother piece of property with this discovery we just made, that they were just digging a septic tank and it caved in, and they found multiple funerals and all these artifacts. This was a month and a half, 2 months ago. And so they went and scanned the property continuously with or all over for, GPR, or ground penetrating radar. And that's when they found the anomaly that they dug and found that thing. And so if you've seen that video or know what I'm talking about, there's a large, I mean, it's like a 3-ton sarcophagus coupled with like a half-ton pyramid, and there was a stone body inside the sarcophagus. And the entire floor was made of carved stones, and the entire sidewalls had an inlet.
Where can we pull this up?
Yeah, pull it up. Absolutely. It's right on my if you go to my Instagram, you'll see it's like halfway down. It's got like 13 million views or something like that.
Holy shit.
Can you tell me like when kind of when?
Actually, oh yeah, you were just there. Actually, it was the one right before that says alien carvings. Keep going up. Not that one, but the over two. Yep. Nope. Down. Sorry,
Gotcha.
you had it. And then to the right, all the way to the right. Yep, that row right back up there. One
With the cross?
up one row, and that's it right there. Yep,
This
that one. Sorry. And you can.
Oh, I
this is
watched
when
this on
they
here the
found
other
it
day.
here.
I'll mute
And
it.
this is down about 10 feet right here. Or actually, no, that was about 8 feet. And then they had to dig down about 10 feet total to get to the bottom. And they extracted all this stuff out of here. And the INAH showed up in town. But as they were clearing the last load before this all happened and got reported, this post here is what inspired their investigation. So the government actually came to town and started asking questions about this, which is really great because it's never happened before. And that means definitely alarms were raised. Well, I think I know why. And this is likely a tombstone, not a burial. So this is likely the headstone. You know how people have fancy headstones and things? We think that's the case, and that the body's actually underneath of this.
Wow.
Holy shit. And look at that, dude.
That's probably pretty important.
That's a body. Yeah, that's definitely like the shape of a
That's crazy.
tombstone. That is a tombstone. I mean, no doubt. I mean, wow.
Michael, what
Yeah.
is the INAH stand for? Just
It's
for
the
our listeners, 'cause
Institute,
I don't
the
know.
National Institute of Archaeology and Anthropology.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So-
and so I have a letter on my website from them. Everybody always asks, well, how are you able to buy these pieces legally and sell these things? And it's just the whole factor is that they put out a letter on their letterhead stating anything with UFOs or alien-looking beings has to be modern, because these things were created modernly, and there's nothing that dates back past, I think, 1950 or 1930 of
Yeah,
anything
alright.
that looks similar. And so they
Yeah,
just run it off
right.
that. However, they've
That's
never
a-
done a single test. They refuse to do carbon dating. They refuse to do any sort of research whatsoever. They refuse to come to the sites usually. So, like I said, this was the first time that they actually showed up, and they don't know where the site is. The body's still likely in there. So it's kind of a game of cat and mouse right now of who's going to get the body, I guess. But I pray that the guys can show us what that is, because I think that's going to be really epic to this coming out as a true thing, and they do too. So it might take 6 months of things to cool down, but one night they're going to get the clear shot, and I'm sure we're going to get to find out probably.
Are you gonna trade in that chessboard for the tombstone?
No, no. Now, a good friend of mine, he was gung ho about it, and we started asking price and stuff. But the guy's going to hang on to it right now because the INH obviously came to his house, and they want to know more about the situation. And Yeah, I mean,
So
if
insane.
they find this to be genuine, then all this stuff needs to be in the museum. Bottom line, and he agrees. Like you know, he was told by them specifically that the things he was digging out had to be buried by some of his friends or someone else in town at an earlier time because it can't be old. That's what they're told, and
What do you think, dude?
That's not the case. That is definitely not the
it's
case.
definitely not the case. I've got bones and things I just sent off a bone to Italy. I can show you here. I've got the other part of it right here, actually.
What the fuck? This is crazy.
Yeah, I
I
had to go
got
to Italy to get testing done because there's no labs here that will do this sort of testing because I'm
Holy
not an
shit.
archaeologist. But this
Look at
bone,
another like long
you can see how it's
elongated
kind of
head.
split and stuff, and there's
yeah.
like this doesn't
Wow.
happen quickly. This takes a lot of age to get split like that and to show that age. And so we cut this knob off of here. Scott Walter, the geologist, cut this off. Worley packed it up, and we sent it off to Italy. And this is our best shot of getting a oh wow, a bunch of dust just fell out of there. How gross.
So
Sorry, guys. Ugh.
are you finding a lot of these symbols that you're finding down in Mexico? Are they coming up in other places with some of this some of these types of architecture
Yeah,
popping up?
there's influence everywhere, and so it really brings it back to that whole Tower of Babel story and the fall of Babylon, and that the world used to be united under certain languages, and there wasn't all these like 75 or 150 dialects or whatever we have now. There's a lot of stuff there, and then you look at the stories of how the languages came into play in these different cultures, like in Egypt it was Thoth. And so we have these credits not to the people but to gods almost everywhere about the language, about the agriculture, down in Mexico, the corn and the different quinoa and stuff like that. It was all supposedly brought to them by the gods. So I think that's really an important thing to look at because it's the same thing over in Mesopotamia with Enki and the agriculture over there. So we have the same story, we have these same type of figures. But what was really confusing is when I came into this, the dogma had me so like, oh, Enki has to be this person, and Enlil has to be Zeus, and these have to be the same people because they're the same type of gods and they're the same. But what I didn't understand was is that these emanations or these thoughts or these high-end beings seems like they make appearances in history as different avatars at different times, maybe to try different experiments or something of that nature. But one thing it seems like is that when they put themselves into this material world, that they have to abide by some of the same issues that we have in terms of dualism. So if you ever notice that gods in all these mythological stories have issues and they're evil sometimes and good sometimes and they do good and bad, they're gods. Like, how can this be? And it's because they put themselves into the material world, and that the material world, everything here is unbalanced because
That's what I
it's
was just gonna say. This
right.
goes right back to being balanced. Everything's balanced. As above, so below. Same, it's
Yep.
all
And
balanced.
Anubis is shown holding scales in Egypt all the
Yeah.
time. And Tula, the word Tula actually means scales. And we found scales in Tula. And there's actually a place in Russia, and I've had numerous people on this recent post reach out to me from Russia claiming that they have similar stuff coming out of the ground there, and it's not that far from Tula, Russia. So
Holy
it's
shit,
just
man.
weird, weird
In a way,
commonalities, I guess. Yeah.
No, it's not. There's not similarities. There's no point. There's all everything happens for a reason. Like this is all
Yeah.
like
That's
there's
the
symbolism
takeaway.
of it. Yeah,
It's the
that's
real faith right there. I think that's faith in a nutshell. Is that everything happens for a reason, and
uh,
this is a plan. Like I was talking about earlier, how all the good comes from chaos. I mean, that's some serious math.
mm.
Yeah, sure is,
And that's the
man.
thing. They don't want us to know how powerful we really are. They don't want us
Right.
to know, like they just don't want us to know. They're holding so much information back. Why? What is the Vatican hiding? All the information hidden in the Vatican. Like
You've
there's
heard about
they
the remote viewing before?
yes, yeah.
Okay, so
We
so they had remote viewers try to locate and follow a soul after it died, and multiple remote viewers followed the soul until it hit this brick wall. And multiple other remote viewers were able to follow the soul all the way to a star system like some 1400 light years away or something like that. And what's really interesting there is you know, when I did DMT, I hit this brick wall and thought I died. Literally, like I just hit the red X and the blackness was all around me, and that was it. And so when some of these other people were asked to find out what the brick wall was, and they remote viewed the wall itself, they could see a machine. And so there's a gentleman named J.J. Hurtak, and he came out with a book called The Book of Knowledge back in 1973. And I mean, it has predictions in there. It's like some Nostradamus stuff. The guy made some serious claims for 1973, and you read it now, and it's bone chilling. I mean, his story echoes through my head daily. And what's really nuts is he claimed that that these beings in our brain essentially is like 13 or 14 volts when we're born, right? And as we collect more knowledge and information, we need more power to be able to remember it all. So as you get older, your body starts malfunctioning because you're capped at this 13.1 volts. Well, what's capping it? Well, it's the magnetic sphere blocking rays from the sun. And so this engine might be creating the magnetic sphere, which is actually blocking away why our brain's only running at 10%. Yeah, we were being manipulated by the sun's energy being cut off from us. And they say that we're at the solar maximum now. And in July, there's a high chance of a CME that could warp the magnetic sphere. And that could allow us to start evolving in a way that we've never evolved in thousands of years. And it could actually be how there's beings in the Bible that live to be 1,000 and why now it's not.
That's interesting.
And if you guys know, it ties into today because we talked about the other day how UK just passed a bill. They want to block the sun.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I live in Florida, so I see it all the time, especially in the morning when the sun's rising and they just got nothing but spray right in front of it. Like they block it out. There's a reason for that. I tell people that all the time.
It's just like fluoride, anything they can do to suppress the spiritual and the light coming to us to keep us in the dark, the more they can abuse our soul and pump us for whatever they're humping us for, it seems like,
Jeez.
And
Loose
wisdom,
jackers,
right?
man.
Wisdom teeth are tied to your third eye as well. That's why they always want to pull them.
I still have mine.
So do I.
Oh,
Yeah.
makes sense
Man,
why you
them
guys
fuckers came out. The
makes
amount of
sense
pain
why-
I was in, get them things out.
makes sense, Raj. These guys seem a lot smarter than you and I. Don't
Yeah, no doubt.
these
doubt.
guys. Oh man, I love it, man. This was
But
this
there's
was
a
awesome,
one
Michael.
trick to that, and, you know, it's scary. Like the other day, we were talking about the whole fluoride situation because if you want pay attention to Florida, like the governor's banning fluoride in our tap
Mhm.
water and all that, right? So it was funny because I saw my guidance counselor. I'm this is elementary school, so that's how long. And we were discussing about fluoride. I said, "Do you remember you guys used to give us fluoride every morning that we had to swish for 30 seconds before we did the Pledge of Allegiance?" And he was like, and everybody always said, "No, I don't remember that." But he was like, "Yeah, I do remember that. We used to do that all the time." I said, "Yeah, you did." And you go,
School. That should be the
School.
parents' decision. School's doing it. Like that's
Well,
fucked up.
programming, baby.
You know why the school system was made, right? Back by the Rockefellers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
nation of
It's to create
workers.
a working class human. Yeah.
That's
They
why
don't
the
want
school
leaders.
that's why the school cafeteria looks the same as the prison cafeteria. That's why all the institutions look the same. Like you go
Bingo.
out to you're going out to the yard to play. You're going out in the yard for prison. Like you know what I mean? It's
Everybody
all,
has a number, just like a prisoner.
yeah.
Yeah, and they make it almost impossible for you to homeschool. I mean, how many
Yeah.
parents can stay home and do the job correctly?
Absolutely.
Very
not.
few. Very few.
I got a question for you because I have myself have dabbled in DMT. I have not done the trick because I just recently saw it. But did you ever do the laser trick?
No, I'm curious, but after that NDA, I've never done it, and it came out after that. So yeah,
So-
it's one of those things I would definitely do if I ever did it again, though.
Okay.
I
All
gotta
right.
see the code, man. I saw the code without it though in my music studio when I would play certain frequencies with the synthesizers.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, it made everything. Oh, it was bizarre.
What were your
Yeah,
the hertz at? Where were your hertz at, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I always tune to a 432 or 532 solfeggio type frequencies. Prince was really, really big on this, and I found that it's really indicative to unleashing. They say when the priests come in from the Vatican to get rid of the demons, they do what? They exorcise the demon, right? And then
Mhm.
you have all these chakra points in your body, and you're supposed to work your chakras, okay? And so people have these tuning forks, and they hit these specific frequencies that are corresponded to your chakra points. Well, there's seven of your chakras, and seven points of sound. Well, what's interesting is the Romans, here we go back to the Saturn worshippers, they took it
Mhm.
from 432 and changed it to 440 so they could get an extra tone in the octave. Well, that extra tone throws everything else slightly out of tune. And the Gregorian chants, all that stuff no longer will achieve ultimate meditation. So people can no longer free themselves from this bondage by doing proper meditations if they don't have the right tones. And that's why music today goes stale so quick so often, and very few artists are putting out things that are addictive. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
there's a lot to it in that, because everything's 440 tuned, and nobody wants to tune away from that, because then it's impossible to jam. And oh, his instrument won't do this because it's not made that way. All these problems. So.
Huh.
Yeah, I,
So
I
Mike,
listen to a lot.
go
I
ahead.
listen to a lot of Hertz. I'm like a frequency, like I'm very interested in that, and the meditation part and stuff. And so I listen to a lot of music and like sounds that are high hertz. 528 though, you ever did that? Like I hear that like opens realms possibly.
Yeah, that's actually what I meant. I think I said 532, but it is 528. That's the solfeggio frequency, the
Yeah,
sound of
that's
om.
yeah,
And if you go to earthtuned.com, this guy was on DMT and had a vision that he was supposed to make these tuning forks out of this special research grade NASA alloy. And so he went and hunted and found this alloy and created these tuning forks. And I kid you not, it will launch you into a whole nother world. I got the Solfeggio one. It was like 12 or $1,300. I mean, this is not for the faint of heart, but holy cow. If you want frequency, yeah, there's
yeah.
nothing like that. I'm
I
telling you,
So
it is so
listen to
special.
Solfeggio. I
what's
listen to a lot of Solfeggio tunes. It's awesome. I was telling the boys about it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
is that
But
material Tulum that they make that out of or something like
You
that?
know, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you, and I don't think he publishes that because it's a trick of the trade or something maybe. But yeah, I just know that I was at a show and they had these there, and a
Oh
buddy of mine
wow.
had mentioned it in the past, and I
So
caved.
Michael, I just want to say, because you talked about with the DMT and how you died out. I mean, I was just doing the mushroom thing. I've been into them the past year. Um, I was just kind of doing it Friday night thing. I don't drink or anything. I smoke a little bit of weed, but it was my way to it was my way of getting spiritual. Little did I know that different strains could be a little stronger, and I was taking the same amount every week, and I did this on an empty stomach, and I took probably a little more than I normally do. I never really weighed them out, and
probably.
probably, dude, when I say I
Hit the
completely
death
fell
row.
fell out and had an out of body experience. Like I learned from it, and I feel like I'm way more humbled. But I'm afraid of when you say died out with a DMT. I'm afraid like if it's the same experience of me dying out with a psilocybin type thing. I mean, like I said, it's just was a total out of body experience. I've been doing mushrooms for a year and never experienced this, dude. It was insane, absolutely
Right.
insane.
So there's a few things involved with it that I've learned with mushrooms specifically, and different strains. Is obviously some are much more in the mind and some are much more visual, but also the quantities, as you say, can make a huge difference, and also the route of administration. And so I always take my mushrooms and boil them and create a hot chocolate. I don't do tea.
Mm.
I do hot chocolate, coats the stomach, and it uptakes rapidly, really, really fast. And so the only times I've ever blasted off was when I drank it. So when you say you were on an empty stomach, I feel that that's probably what launched you extra hard,
Yep.
is
And
because your
I
metabolism's everything in this, you
And
know.
I made, so you just said it. What I would do is I made my I called it my shake, and I took fresh oranges, lemons, anything vitamin C, put them in the blender, and dude, I never had this. Again, it was like my wife was always on board. This has turned me into. It really did. I still love mushrooms. I'm not going to do them for a long time now after this experience, but it did turn me into a better man, a better dad. It rewired my brain, but
Yes.
but it just, again, I'm more humbled of the experiences, because like I used to talk shit on it. Basically, I'm like, dude, I could take as much as I want. I'm like, I don't know what a bad trip is. I don't know.
Hero
what
doses, man. Hero doses.
I would every Friday.
Yeah.
I would basically do that, and then this new strain, dude, did it to me.
You smoke cannabis?
I do.
Yeah. See, and so I'll tell you a little theory on this. Cannabis likely protects the pineal gland, especially the strains that are the gas, and it's called the thiol that's in there. And only few strains have it, like GMO cookies, different chem dogs, OG Kushes, diesels. You know, these all have thiols in there, but most strains, the fruity strains, Trop Cherry, all this stuff, they don't have thiols in there hardly at all. And so when I smoke strains without thiols, I can sit there and just go to town, and they don't really do much. But the thiols relax me and bring me down, and I believe it has to do because of the pineal gland. And so mushrooms, for instance, bad trips specifically, I feel are demonic. When you open your eye and you don't cleanse the area, that's why people say you should do it with a guide or someone that knows what they're doing, because they will use Kapal res, they will burn the incense, they will say the chants, they will have the drum beat to keep you
Tell you, Ant,
grounded.
what I tell you,
Yeah, if you don't do that, bad trips can happen. I've had it happen a few times.
And I think it was you said it was. I feel like it was almost like the demons were trying to get. I had that portal open, dude, and they were right there, right? And I wasn't letting them in though. That was the whole thing. I was not letting them in, and I remember making these like, and it's embarrassing, but I was making these grunting sounds in my brain, and I don't know what I was fucking doing. I really don't. But was it me fighting these demons off that were trying to get in me because I had that portal open? I don't know. Like it was so.
Here's good evidence is so, you know, the Tibetan monks, they work on breathing exercises. Well, when you're under these intense spiritual situations like this, breathing exercises are really crucial. And so yeah, your body was probably doing that just out of an involuntary response to, you know.
Yeah.
That makes me breathe heavy just thinking about it. But yeah, that's what a bad trip is to me, and I think cannabis prevents a lot of those from happening. And once I started using cannabis regularly and I started hunting for the gas, I didn't have the issues as much. And I asked ChatGPT recently, because I'm writing a book on cannabis. That's what my business is prior to doing this. I own a cannabis company up here in Washington, and so we've bred and done genetics.
We'll have to
for
I
years,
do
you know?
I do a cannabis podcast as well, so we'll have.
Oh, no kidding! Oh, cool.
Yeah, man. Well,
Right on.
if you can see behind me, I got Homer Simpson there smoking a dope, going back to the business. So.
Heck yeah.
It seems like we were like on the same wavelength, because I was telling Anthony about it, because, you know, like he said a year. I'm like, oh, you're not a pro in a year. I mean, and if he's just now having a bad trip, I told him, I said, you haven't even been there yet. I think what he did was, work in theory, and because I've done it, is that he actually left the realm for the first time. He left, right. He knew as reality. And I told him, I said, there's angels and demons that watch you constantly. You know, I tell people, be careful who you pray for, right. Or who you pray to, because everyone's listening. And he was weak when he went into that realm, that dimension. And he just caught him off guard, because he's never been there. He was weak. So, and I asked him probably like a week later, I said, how you feel? I said, have you felt like very calm, very mellow, like just eye-opening, but just sitting back? And he's like, yeah, I feel exactly like that. And I said, that's because your soul fought so hard for you that it is just exhausted.
It exercised the demons from you.
Yeah.
That's why they call it that.
People laugh at me when I talk about experiences like that, even like the DMT experiences, and people laugh at me and they, oh, you're just a drug addict, you're just this. And I laugh at them. I don't get mad. I'm just like, dude, you have no idea. Right. And it would literally, like, I would say probably if you did the first time you did a DMT, hopefully you're with somebody, and depending on the amount you do, but it could scare somebody, but it is absolutely mine. Like I did it by myself a couple times, and I did it with a friend. And you had sounded a little bit like me and my friend like knew everything. We were talking with each other, but never said a word. But we weren't even in our body. We were we were somewhere else. And it was like, I remember when we came to, like, it was like, it felt like, because time isn't real, right? It
You
felt
actually
like,
escape time when you leave your body. That's the trick, right?
exactly. So you feel like you're gone for ages, but here you are, you were only gone for 10, 15 minutes. And like,
Bingo.
we looked at each other and gave the biggest like slap dap, and amazing. And it literally like changed my buddy's life for sure. Like he totally did the whole 180 and doing
So
really well.
it all happens in 15 minutes. It's that fast. It's really like an
It's not even
intense trip.
15. It's like
Really?
4 minutes and 34 seconds is how long I was out of my body. Because I was
Wow.
recording in my studio. So literally it just went to a flat kick drum all of a sudden for 4.5 minutes while I was gone. And that kick drum was continuously hitting in my head. I feel it helped really keep me grounded because that sound never went away, you know?
Mhm.
Wow.
And that leads us. That kind of leads back to my question with like the frequencies and the vibrations and stuff. They also use that for healing. So like when they had like the Liberty Bell and all these they had all these bells all across like the country
Yep.
were used for healing, but now they're all
Right.
the bell in Philly's got a crack in it, like they're all cracked
Yeah.
and broken.
Yeah.
Like,
They melted
they used to
them or
use
they
those
cracked them.
vibrations.
Yeah,
They used
that's
to
why they
use them for
stopped using
healing.
bells and churches, organs and
Yep.
short churches. That's why they stopped using those.
Yep.
Like I like you get what 7 points to chakra, right? And
There's
there's
7 chakras. Yeah.
there's supposedly 7 realms, and like I'm just learning it, so I don't know a whole lot to it. But I mean, frequency because I do the solfeggio, and I
Yep.
put headphones on, and I just close my eyes and I sit. At first, I thought I was like, yeah, this ain't this, but the more you do it, the better you feel,
Oh yeah.
and
Huh.
then
Big time.
it takes away the brain fog.
I got to get into that for golf. You do it for golf, right?
Yeah.
Before you play?
Yes,
Yeah.
yep. When I'm stretching and stuff, and I'm everybody, I put on my headphones and I listen to the tones and everything for about 15, 20 minutes.
You know what I do, guys? I smoke a joint, listen to Conspiracy Chaos.
Listen, I smoke. Dude. It's part of the ground, my friend. Mushrooms, cannabis. It's all part.
Yep.
It's all part of the thing we need to heal.
Yeah.
That's
I
it,
agree.
man.
No, it's probably what connected us here today, even, like I don't think any of it's an accident. Like it definitely seems like these paths are there. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mothership Glass.
No.
They make a really high-end glass bongs. The guy's like a wizard, and let me see if I have it sitting here still.
Yeah, let's see.
Well,
Let's see.
Guys got
there's a piece
This
there I
is
showed you
awesome.
earlier with
This
the
is like
rings
my
inside of
favorite
rings.
podcast episode I've ever done.
It is mine as well. We had a couple. Listen, we had a
That's
couple
cool.
big conspiracy
bang.
guests on so far, and you are definitely my favorite, just because
Appreciate that.
you're one of us, bro. You're
Just
awesome.
the vibe. The vibe is awesome.
Yeah. Legit,
Yeah.
The vibe is awesome, man.
legit, man.
But yeah,
So-
he makes these things called launch pads, right? It's mothership glass, so it's already UFO-esque, and he makes these things called launch pads, and they're like a 8.5 inch disc that has the flower of life and the sacred geometry on it, and you can set your rig on it, right? Well, I got a piece from
Yeah.
Mexico, and it literally, I'm gonna take it off here so you can see it.
Hey,
It's
pull it up, Mothership Glass. Pull it up.
I will.
yeah,
I will. I got you.
you could probably pull it right up there. Yeah, it's a good call. I always forget about that.
Oh shit.
I'm never that savvy. But this piece came in the mail, and it's the base to those rings within a rings, and it has the same flower of life that they use on almost every rig that they make. And the size of this disc is identical. You can set it right on top. It's like they were cut on the same circle level.
That's
Like it's
crazy.
so bizarre. But this gentleman, his physics and the way that the function in this glass works, there's nothing else like it, and they're thousands of dollars for a reason. And yeah, there you go. You can see it's a scientific apparatus. There's no
Oh,
question
yeah.
about it,
You
right?
do.
Okay.
You do some
Yeah.
dab. You dab.
This
as
guy
well?
did. He's at Burning Man, and he thumbprints the acid, and like the guy's just connected spiritually, So yeah, I definitely think there's something connected there on that level too. And oh yeah, I do hash dabs primarily because I've got I smoke so much that I get congestion in the lungs, and then I can't take deep breaths, and I'll sit there and try to yawn and get anxiety and sweaty palms and not feel good when I smoke. And so even some dabs were causing this to happen
Huh.
because it was all about how I was doing the process of distillation, and if I would do a proper burn, it was good. Like blunts for me were okay the first like half of it, but the second half would make me cough and hurt so bad. Well, it's because of the amount of reclaim or resin that's going into your lungs. And if it's
The
not
heat.
burning at the perfect temperature, like if the cherry's
Yep.
not even, you notice how you don't get as high and it's all
Yep.
wonky and shit. Well, that's because
Yep.
the molecules, when it's vaporizing, are now wonky as well. Like a raindrop that's not perfectly round, it's not as strong like a bubble, too. If a bubble's wonky, it's going to pop really easily. So these bubbles, if they're not perfect and they go into your lungs, then all of a sudden they start building up big chunks of reclaim like it does inside of your glass. And that causes you not be able to breathe. So I figured all this out, and all of a sudden now I can smoke like a champ again. And I'm back exercising and living around like I'm in
Yeah.
my 20s, even though my entire 30s were torture. So
Yep. Yeah, Mike, our other buddy Mikey, all he does is dabs, and he swears. But I love dabbing as well. It's just kind of like, to me, I have a couple kids, so it's a pain in the ass setting up the rig, plugging it in.
yeah.
I have the e-rig and everything, but he has his plugged in all the time. He doesn't have to worry about that. His kids are all grown up, but he says it's the safest, well, the most definitely the healthiest way to smoke because you're getting the proper temperature. You're not burning anything. There's
Right.
no right. I mean, it's just you're melting it to
It's
the
Yeah.
perfect right. What
Yeah.
temperature do you
like
rosin at? Curious.
400. Right?
465,
Okay.
470, somewhere in there usually.
Yep. Mike does
And
it. Mike's funny. He does his a little. He's like I keep mine at 420 just because it's 420. He likes his a little lighter, but I always like mine. On the other hand, hotter. I would go up to like 500 because I like that. I like that nice milky big
Yeah, you
old
can't
dab. And
more than 500 though, right? It's
no,
like
no, no. Well, you don't want it to burn. You don't want it to burn
yeah.
off either. You want it to
so
stay
so that
oily.
500 comments, I found a way around that to where you don't have to hurt your lungs. Because think about it like this. Okay, if 465, 470 is comfortable on your lungs, and you go up to 500, imagine getting in a hot tub of water that was 102, and you're like, yeah, this is comfy. Let's go up to 122. I mean,
Oh yeah,
you're
you're cooked.
singed, bro. Your skin's
Yeah, you're
garbage
fucking
now, right?
cooked.
So these are your airways in your lungs, and so I feel that this temperature has a really specific tolerance and a balance. Like dude that does it at 420, he could probably take like 10 rips off of
He
each
does.
dab, which is okay, and it's definitely thinned out, but his allergies are going to kick his ass because he's constantly taking in all these pollens and different things that aren't getting broke down and combusted or vaporized, I should say, at the right temperature. And so there's definitely a fine line, like that
You
448 to
do you
475 ish.
do you find that
um
different? Do you find that like different like so like there's the rosin, you got your diamonds, you got your resin. Do you think different God, what's the word? Are different dabs use
Textures.
different textures, right? Are different
yep.
would use different temperatures maybe?
Oils or fats, right? Just like cooking oils from trees versus oil from tallow, you're going to burn it at a different temperature to cook, right? And so this is no different. It's just like Wagyu. It melts at a lower temperature. It melts cleaner. I mean, that would be your 6-star hash. That's like the Wagyu of weed versus, some, farmer's best at the Kroger's that's filled with a bunch of hormones and awful things that's going to clog your arteries. Like that's the difference on that stuff in terms. You are what you smoke. You are what you eat, right? So
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
it makes a
Okay.
difference for
I'm
sure.
riding like a cowboy then because I'm smoking that
And the
cowboy
melting
lemonade.
points, like diamonds, you have to go up to 500 to get them to, because the diamond itself has to melt. And the biggest obstacle is the bowl that you're using. When you put liquid on there, it cools down, and so it has to compensate somewhere to get that combustion or that vaporization to occur. And if you use like a Puffco Pro, it has what's called a 3D printed chamber, and that means the coil is printed into the ceramic all the way around to the top. And so when the oil starts to run up the walls, rather than cooling down and creating an imbalanced vapor that causes reclaim in your lungs, then it literally will climb up there and melt evenly the whole way. And you get really solid, milky hits at a lower temperature.
Okay.
Yeah, my
All
buddy
Dude,
right,
has
man.
a truck, so that thing is nice.
what an
It's
episode,
worth
man.
every
We've gone
penny.
everywhere.
I was just gonna
We
say this little extra bonus coverage onto the
yep.
cannabis talk was awesome.
We're
Yeah.
definitely gonna talk, Michael, and link up and get you on the pitch button puff, man, for sure.
Heck yeah. Let's do it.
Here's my last question for you.
Hmm?
Aliens, Anunnaki, whatever you think they are, where do you think they come from? Do you think they come from outer space? Do you think they come
Is
from the
there
ocean?
space?
Do you think they come from underground? Like there's that one video
E.T.
where
is
there's
called E.T. for a reason. The movie E.T. I don't know how Spielberg inspired Third Encounters of all these movies, right? Indiana Jones, like he knew something somewhere,
Flight of
or he
Navigator.
was taking drugs and doing stuff, then and he was getting fed information from the areas we were talking about in the DMT world or mushrooms world, whatever. Somehow he knew about this and predicted all this through his imagination or whatever. But nonetheless, ET has three fingers, just like the Nazca mummies, and he's called ET. They're immediately putting this idea in your mind that he is from another planet, extraterrestrial, meaning outside of our solar system, right? But
Mhm.
the truth is, these beings are ultra dimensional, meaning they are
Okay.
like they are here watching us right now in another dimension, and they're not in the physical realm or the material world that we're in. And a really good book on that is called the Pistis Sophia, and it's a like a third century or second century AD text that they found in the 1800s in Egypt, and it has the teachings of Jesus to his disciples and Mary about what happened to him after he died, and it's
Oh,
something
shit.
that's revered as antiquity by the churches, but I don't think the churches want you to read it, just like the Book of Enoch, because what it says in there and how it talks about the fallen and all these things that we're talking about, um, it really explains what Easter really is, and that was the overcoming of Ishtar, the fallen gods, and she was the reproductive goddess. And so remember, I told you earlier how these gods would put in themselves as different avatars. Well, there's Isis, the white buffalo calf woman, Mary. Ishtar, Ninhursag, all these reproductive divine females. Well, when she came to check on her creation, the demiurge, he trapped her soul here and then used her as part of the Trinity to create all the species and all the things that we have here in this planet, because it requires that Trinity action to be able to do so without everything being all messed up. And so that's why it's such an experimental realm, and why all of a sudden you just have the from the old kingdom to the new kingdom, there's no new species ever made ever again. We've never witnessed a species being born on this planet, and that's because she is not here to do it.
Hmm.
That's
Love
a
it.
good answer. Love
This
it.
is
I really do,
fucking
man.
great, man.
Michael, why don't you tell the listeners where they could find you, where they could buy your book, your Instagram page, because you are awesome, buddy, and we
Yeah,
really
this is a
appreciate you
great
coming on.
Thank
episode.
you,
The
man.
information is awesome. We'll
Yeah.
definitely get you back on down the
Yeah.
road for sure, because we could keep going on for days.
This is my newest book here, Forbidden Relics. It's extremely thick,
Oh shit.
and it's extremely well pictured out. Everything has its own spread with detailed macro photos, and I mean it's 400 pages of everything that's in my collection. So if
If
you
I
want something to just go off in a corner and just try to learn about this, that's what I recommend.
hey
Amazon is
Michael,
where we sell all of our books. What was that?
can I buy one? But I just want it autographed, man. If you could
Yeah,
can rip me one and send it, because I would put it in my studio right behind me here, brother.
of
So
course.
I'll
Yeah,
connect with you. Awesome. I'd love to
reach
buy
out
one,
anytime.
and I'll
Yeah,
I'll definitely support you there, buddy. That book looks
definitely
awesome,
get
buddy.
that Anunnaki book.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Man.
all it's mostly pictured. When I was a little kid, my mom took me to the bookstore and she's like, "What kind of books do you want?" And I had just seen Indiana Jones and I was like, "I want books on Egypt. I want to see all these artifacts and what they show, and I want to learn more about this country." And they didn't have it.
So
You
cool,
could
man.
not go, and you still cannot go and buy a book on a catalog of antiquities from Egypt. It just doesn't exist. And they want you to go to the museum. And so my idea was I wanted this since I was a little kid. I'm going to make it myself on this. This is an opportunity to redeem this, and now we can get the museum in a book. So
That's cool.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
So cool, man. Thank you so much, Michael, for coming on
Yeah,
and
man.
spending the
yeah,
We
time with
really
us, buddy.
appreciate your time. This was really a cool
Thank you
episode
so
for
much.
sure.
yeah, anytime,
For
guys.
sure.
I appreciate it as well.
Why don't you let the listeners know where they can find you? What's your
Yeah.
website and
At
your
Alien
Instagram?
Carvings, aliencarvings.com. It's always just Alien Carvings pretty much anywhere we're at. So,
Okay,
and our
cool.
website has a link tree and everything, mailing lists and direct message if you need to get a hold of us, if you have questions, if you've seen stuff that corresponds to this, don't hesitate.
Awesome.
Awesome,
Awesome.
man.
Truly appreciate your time, man. We're gonna take a quick break, jump back on here, and recap the episode. Michael, once again, man, we truly appreciate
Thank
your
you so
time.
much.
And
Yep.
go check out ancientcarvings.com. Appreciate
Alien carvings.
Alien
alien carvings. My bad. Alien carvings. Smoke another doob is right. Well, boys, we did it again, man. Nothing but bangers over here at Conspiracy Cast. When we bring a guest on, we bring you a guest with, like, we go down every rabbit hole. We got into cannabis. We got into psilocybins. We got into alien carvings. We got into
Pyramids.
energy sources, the cult, like fucking as well, Freemasons. We went everywhere, man. That was a wild fucking episode, a roller coaster of an episode.
I'm
boys,
buying.
what's
I'm getting a couple of his books. I no doubt. I think they are probably really, 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 really cool to have on the shelf. So
yeah, I'm gonna get him on the Pitch Putt and Puff, man. He's
you should.
the cannabis conversation at the end was getting real interesting. I know we were getting tired. The night's going long here.
Yeah.
Didn't want to take up too much of his time. I know he's on the West Coast, so it's a little earlier, but still.
I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to that. Listen, Raj, getting him on the Pitch Putt and Puff because I'm
That'll
sure
be fun.
he knows his shit.
That'll
He
be
knows
fun.
his shit. He's a really smart dude. Really knows his shit.
That was, I mean, where do we start with this recap here, boys? Like, I mean, obviously with the alien carvings, what do you guys think? Like, we were kind of talking prior here. What do you guys think those carvings are? Like, are they like he has legit like that chessboard? Let's talk about the chessboard. For them to find every single fucking piece of that chessboard. So when you're digging up like these, I don't even know what the hell you call them, archaeologists who are digging. I don't even know if they're actually archaeologists digging or they just got people digging. But whoever's doing the digging, how careful you got to be. They're probably in there with a paintbrush, dusting this bitch off, and then they pull up a rook. And then they pull up a knight and then a bishop, and they're like, "What the fuck? We got a chessboard here."
They pull it up like in a tomb or like in a concealed thing. He didn't really touch base in that.
I think I'm more mind blown by the tomb that they dug up. That last thing that we brought up, that video.
Yeah.
That whatever that was and whatever is underneath that tomb, we have to find out. We need that needs to be to be continued on that one because that's holy shit. You're right though, Raj. For the listeners, if anybody is listening on this one, you have to go to the YouTube and watch it because this is not one to be listened. You have to go see everything that Michael has. It's just incredible.
It's mind blowing. It truly his detail of his shit too. Like he knows his shit. His knowledge was on point. Like and every time like we brought something up, like relative, like I mentioned the Anunnaki and then the black cube, and he's like, yeah, absolutely. And he always spins it. How everything just ties in, man. He's a conspiracy guy just in general too. That's really cool. But
they all together, so you kind of have to be, right?
Yeah.
It's all just a group.
It's so crazy though. You guys always say it all ties into the occult, and it really does. It does, man.
Yeah. The families who control the show.
Yep.
We're just the puppets, brother. That's all people with a number.
Man, yeah, I think honestly, guys, I was saying off air, I think he would be a great guest for like experienced podcasters like Triple E and Mark from My Family Thinks I'm Crazy. Like, I think he would be a great guest for those podcasts as well, man. Like,
link them up.
I think I'm gonna send up a little link, see if they're interested in speaking to him for sure.
Yeah,
but
his room was like a little museum. It really was.
It was unreal. Like he had legit Anunnaki skulls in his living room. Like homeboy sitting there watching Jeopardy and Anunnaki skull looking at him. Like,
dude, and let's talk about that too. Like look at the skull, like what it had. It had the seeing eye, and then above it had, the beams coming down on it. That's in your money. It's in everything.
Yeah. And I seen, like I said to him, the one thing that looked like literally out of a scene from Moana. Had the waves and all that shit on it. Like that's the Disney tie-in. Disney's always fucking tied in as well, man.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
It's really cool, man. Good
motherfuckers. I fucking hate Disney.
Aleister Crowley being brought up again, man. Like the dark arts, bro. It's all about the dark arts. One way or the other. It's the
Oh.
fucking dark arts, man.
And I told you, boys, I've told you many times, we are in hell.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, like I was talking to somebody the other day, like, you think that when God sent down the 200 fallen angels to never be able to go back, you think he sent them down here to change who they are and be better? And no, they came down here and just made a world that they could control,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
And,
Know what I wrote down that I forgot to ask him about was the Grand Canyon. I wanted to ask him about the Grand Canyon,
on the pyramid there.
the pyramids and the gold and all that shit. I wonder what his theory is on that. I'll bring it up on the PPP.
Yeah, you
You
should.
know,
When you're on
something
the
like
PPP, go into some conspiracy stuff because I want to hear more of what he.
We could have kept. We're gonna get him back on. I mean, had him for an hour and a half almost. I didn't want to take up too much of his time. I feel like when I have guests on for that long, I'm like, all right, this guy's probably got other shit to do than bullshit with me for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
He wanted.
You know?
I think this guy was different though. I think he wanted.
I
He
know.
would have just kept going if we kept the night going. I think he was down to stay. But
It's in my
he
head,
was
man.
dope.
I'm always like
I
that.
know.
I'm like, all right, I can't take up too much of these people's time. So,
I know, man.
but
It
it was
a
dope.
great
I'd love
night.
to get him back on and continue the conversation for sure. But,
absolutely.
Yeah,
boys, we
man.
did it again. Appreciate
My-
everybody tuning in. Like I said, go check this video. If you're listening on the audio side, highly recommend going to our YouTube page. Check us out, Conspiracy Chaos. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell so you get the notifications when we go live. Usually going live once, sometimes twice a week. So check us out there. What else, boys? What else we got? We got the Twitter, trying to build the Twitter and the Instagram up. Check us out at Conspiracy Chaos. And then you can find us everywhere, Apple, Spotify. Leave a review on the Apple. That will help us in the algorithm as well. So help us out any way you can. And
Yeah,
we
and
appreciate
shout out to a new follower. His name's Alex. He lives down here by me. He works at the store that I pretty much been going to since I was a kid. He
Oh, yeah.
listened to our live. He told me yesterday, following.
cool.
So told me we had a good one tonight. He's all about the alien stuff and Anunnaki. So shout out to Alex. Appreciate your new follow, brother.
Welcome
Absolutely.
to the
Appreciate
welcome
it.
to
We
the
appreciate
chaos.
Hell yeah, welcome to the Chaos Crew, man. That's what it is. Just get it, dive right into the chaos, and we're gonna keep it coming with some cool guests. Like I said, I mean, if once we get Tripoli on, man, I might just wrap this thing up because where do you go from there, right? No, I'm just kidding, but that would be awesome. Definitely gonna get XG on. I'll link up with him. I'll probably we'll figure that one out sooner than later, and then what else you guys want to find out about, man? Like, where should I go next with doing some research on some guests? And if you got one.
Well, I said earlier I would love to do the one. I don't know if we could get guests, but I really, really, really am interested now in after watching that Avicii video and the the three mysterious deaths: Avicii, Chester Bennington, and
Okay.
the other guy there. How they were all going to
Testify.
Well, no, not testify, but they were gonna. I think Avicii was gonna make a documentary of child trafficking, and he made that video, and it was all about child trafficking. All three of them, and they.
Avicii's, you should watch Avicii's last performance.
Okay, well, I know. The last video he made is the video I sent you guys, and it's very sad and disturbing. If you go watch,
Was it at the show?
I haven't seen it.
No, it wasn't at the show. It was the video.
Yeah, the one where he does his last show. The night he dies, he does a show.
Oh, does it? No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a music
No,
video.
no, you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
It's all connected. Like before he,
Gotcha.
like what he says in the song and the performance and stuff, dude. It's like really sad.
Disgusting, man. But yeah, I'd like to. I mean, it's not. I don't know if it's a conspiracy or not. And the other one was Cornell, right? Chris Cornell. The three of them were all going to, and it all happened around the same time, and they all tragically lost their lives. So
one of them was the plane crash or something too, right? Yeah, Paul Walker was tied into that.
Yeah, Paul Walker. That was the car crash. Yeah, he was another one that supposedly he was going to come out as well. So I don't know, man. There's a lot of. I still want to do the 9/11 one as well, Rod. So
9/11. Yeah, let me try. I've tried reaching out to him a couple of times. He hasn't got back to me via text or email.
And we gotta get Dave, the Brain Supreme guy, about flat Earth.
I reached out to Flat Earth Dave too, as well.
Flat Earth Dave and Brain Supreme. He'd come on. And what about our boy?
We forgot about day drinking
Dog.
with.
I was just gonna say Dog. Let's go.
And he just started following the page. We'll get Dog back on. We'll get Dog on.
Yeah.
I'd love to chop it up. His schedule is a little tough though, man. He's got to be like on the weekends and shit. So that's
Yeah.
always difficult for us.
Where we gonna do to work it out?
Figure it
Yeah,
out.
we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out for sure.
Sure.
But yeah, check us out, Conspiracy Chaos. And close us out, man. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll see you on Monday with a new episode. We'll be on the live, baby. Peace.
Peace.
Follow the breadcrumbs, follow moonlight schemes. Hidden agendas ain't as crazy as they seem. Voices in the dark amplifying dreams. Conspiracy chaos, nothing's what it seems.